Hello everyone, my name is Ellisa Cooper and this is Cooking After Quarantine. So earlier today I found some beautiful mushrooms in my fridge that really needed to be cooked up. So I cooked them, I allowed them to cook out and brown up and get really beautiful, and I added some shallots, some garlic. Once the garlic kind of got sticky in the pan, I tossed a little red wine, salt, pepper, and let that cook down. I let them rest for a while, and then just a few minutes ago, I heated them up again with a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, just a splash. And I thought, I have all these beautiful mushrooms. What can I do with them? Well, I realized what a great thing to have like some things prepared that can freeze beautifully. How can I use up some of the stuff that's in my fridge? And I realized I can make calzones. So here's what I've done. I have three kinds of cheese here. I have some little mozzarella balls. I have some Parmesan. I have some goat Gouda, which I thought might be really good with the mozzarella, or I'm sorry, with the mushrooms. I've got olive tapenade, I've got basil oil, I've got artichoke, I've got house-made pesto, roasted garlic, sun-dried tomatoes. I got out the garlic powder, the onion, salt, the crushed red pepper, and the Italian seasoning. So I figure I also got some fresh herbs, some basil, and some thyme from my window garden. And I went downstairs and got a little bowl of dough from the fellas downstairs. So let's see what happens when we try to put together some calzone. So a few minutes ago, I tried to do something in front of the blowing air conditioner, and that was not the smartest move I've ever made. So I've decided to be a little careful with the flour here today. So I've just laid out a mat, and I'm just going to sift a little flour out here because I don't want clumps of flour. I don't know, it just seems nicer to do it this way. I have the accoutrement, why not use it? So here's my little thing of dough that the fellas downstairs gave me. And that's just about a perfect size. And I like the fact that it's risen, but it's not too fluffy. I bought some dough not long ago and put it in the fridge overnight. When I woke up, it was enormous. It had completely grown beyond its size. So I'm looking here, I'm thinking I certainly want to have one mushroom calzone for myself to have for dinner tonight. I have this beautiful basil pesto, but I've already moved it into a smaller container, so it probably needs to be used. So there's two. As I look at it, I'm probably going to be able to make two mushrooms, so there's three. And then I could make a melange of something here with the other. So I'm going to cut this dough into quarters, and that's going to determine the size, I guess, of my my calzones. Perfect. So it says not, when I read up on them, when I read on the internet about making and forming and preparing them to freeze, because I thought it would be nice to have a couple if you know somebody's coming over. We haven't prepared for people coming over in such a long time that maybe we're not prepared for people to come over right now. So now would be a really good time to start doing that. So I'm just going to flatten these out with my hands like I'm somebody's grandma, right? And get those all equally flattened out. We're just really, I hear all that beautiful air popping out. It's nice. And I'm going to stretch it out a little bit because this one seems a little thicker than the other one is. They say you definitely don't want to see the bench underneath your dough. So you want to make sure that they're still opaque as you stretch them out, right? And you also don't want to overfill them. So we're going to get the fillings ready to go. You know, I've had trouble, if you have seen me make pizzas before, you know, I can't tame the dough into being the shape that I want it to be. Dough has a mind of its own for me, and I feel very, very honored when it doesn't fail it for me, just sort of out of spite. So I'm just going to form these into little things that seem like they might be good shapes to start making a calzone. One other thing I have over here is a little egg wash. I chose to do just egg white because I know that these are at least most of them, are likely to be put in the oven more than once. And so I didn't want them to over brown the first time to burn or maybe not be so pretty the second time. So I just kind of thought about that. So before I get started here, I'm going to make my mushroomies here. So here I've stretched my dough out. This one really doesn't want to stretch. It wants to keep springing back to its original shape. Maybe I need more around the edges. A little more around the edges. Here we go. Now she seems a little bigger. Let's see if we can stretch you out a little more too. Thank goodness our skin isn't like this. Oh my goodness. Okay, so here we go. So just to start, I'm going to give myself a little egg wash around the edge of this. If you are vegan, the answer I've learned is coconut oil. Coconut oil will give you the kind of brown that you would get from an egg wash, right? Without sacrificing any animal products. So I'm going to take just a nice spoonful of these. That's probably way too much. I may end up, it seems, making a lot of, maybe making all of them mushroom. So now I would like to have in this one, definitely, I thought that this goat Gouda that I have would be particularly tasty with this. So let's put a little piece of that in there. And then I think anything should maybe have a little toss of crushed red pepper, just a little bit, gently, gently, a little crack of black pepper. And I did salt those quite well, the mushrooms, so I think that they'll be fine without any more salt. So I don't know that this one, let's don't gild the lily, let's make one that's kind of simple. And then I'm just going to fold this over and pinch it around the edges. And so that egg wash is like glue, right? I have a little piece of sticking out over here. So now I've kind of gotten this into that basic calzone shape. I'm no baker and I'm certainly not an artist. So mine are not mine. Certainly my first attempt is not going to be perfectly pretty and crimped. Maybe I should have read a little bit about creating better crimps. Let's see what I can learn from using my imagination and see if I can get some better crimps going here. That looks a little better. So now I'm just going to take this and I'm going to, actually that seems to have maybe come apart. I'm going to re-glue. And you know, you guys, as I said the other day, that I know that there are just hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people all over TV and the internet doing these kinds of things. But I wonder how many of them do things they've never even test driven before. That would be me flying by the seat of my pants every day of my life. It'll be on my headstone. So yes, we've got plenty more mushrooms to go. So give myself some egg glue. Egg glue, that's funny. Sorry, sometimes I make myself laugh with like 2-year-olds, you know, toddler jokes. So anyway, there's this, and again, I still have a lot of these mushrooms. So I'm going to put some more mushrooms in here. And then in this one, maybe I'll use a couple of mozzarella balls. I think that seems like fun. And I can just take a couple here. And I'm going to put them over here where I can slice them into little bits. These have happened to be and marinated in olive oil because that was all that they had at the store. And those of you who know me that I love my little matzo balls, they are just the perfect little snack. I guess I'm like a kid and it's my string cheese, right? So I'm going to cut these little matzo balls into 3 pieces and scatter them around my mushrooms so they can get nice and cheesy. And that seems about enough. Now, I think that this one would benefit maybe from a little bit of fresh basil, like I said, from my window garden. So I'm just going to cut some little tiny slivers. I just took a few of them and I rolled them into a rolled them up. And now I'm just going to take some little pieces and put that there on top. And now we're going to fold that over too and make sure we get all of our stuff. Oh, that smells, that I can't tell you how nice my basil smells there. Oh, yes. Okay, so now I'm going to use my fingers and I'm going to see if I can learn a little better and maybe hold that and see if that gives me some kind of a crimp. It really doesn't. Not like I was hoping for. I thought maybe my fingers might make it crimp, but it doesn't really. I'll have to read up later on making it crimp. So anyway, but I've gotten those 2 pieces together, and now I've got another one ready to go. And now I have the next one that I can start flattening out because I didn't have quite enough space, you know, to get it going. So what else are we going to do here? I have some thyme. I still have some mushrooms, maybe to keep things interesting. I do want to make one that's got some basil pesto in it because I have some beautiful basil pesto that I made a few days, weeks. Time doesn't really seem to have any meaning. I think this is day 103 or 4 of being in quarantine for me. So time really has stopped having much meaning. I wake up in the morning in a panic wondering what day of the week it is. So I was so happy when I woke up and realized it was Thursday. And I know somehow that doesn't really have any meaning because I'm just going to keep doing these things straight through the weekend. So it doesn't have any meaning. So let's see. Here's my beautiful basil pesto. So I'm going to take this. Oh, look how pretty that is. So nice. Take a nice big fat spoonful of that and just put that all over this little pocket. I think that can go top and bottom for sure. Thank goodness for a spoon rest, right? And then what else can I put in here? I do have some nice, I always keep roasted or, pardon me, sun-dried tomatoes around. I like them. I treat them like candy or gummies or whatever. I just can grab a handful of them and chew them up. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to make a little slivers of those. Little tiny, little chiffonade of roasted tomatoes. This should be delicious. And before I do that, I'm just going to put a little bit of some, what do you call this? This is Reggiano Parmesan. There we go, right there. A few of these. That kind of changes it up, right? Makes it a little different. I can still maybe put a few shroomies over here, since I seem to have plenty. And then let's put together another pocket. And excellent. Who knows what's going on over here, if they're going to come apart or not. Hopefully they'll all stay together. And then let's see, what can we do with our last one? The last one. Oh, this one will probably be the one that I eat tonight. So this would be the most interesting one. Let me close those tomatoes so that they don't get anything in them. One thing I need to do, I have, just so you can see, I have taken these 3 that I made. They're not pretty at all. And put them on parchment paper. Those are the ones that are going to get put away. So I'll allow them to cool completely, and then I'll wrap them up first in some wax paper and then in some plastic, and that way they can go in the freezer. And there we go. I've got a couple of vents there, and then I'm going to egg wash these all over. Like I said, I'm using just egg white, because if you put egg yolk in here too, that would brown them up really beautifully, and that's what I would use if I were going to be serving them straight out of the oven. I absolutely would use the yolk. But again, I'm making these first few specifically to be something that I can tuck away and have for a rainy day. And now I'm going to probably maybe I'll use the sturdy skillet right here to cook this one that I'm going to eat tonight. And I might even make this. Just, let's see what all I have. I have so much to work with here. I am a big fan of the mozzarella. I like to mix cheeses together. I've got some mushrooms. I have so much that I can use. And I'm probably getting a little too thin in the middle, but you know, this one doesn't have to be the prettiest one, because it's going to come straight out of the oven and go straight into me. Pretty, pretty. Here we go. So I think I am going to take a little tiny bit of basil pesto for this one and let that kind of be my base. That'll be fresh and nice. And since I do still have a little bit of the chiffonade basil from before, let's just put that right in there. No reason not to. Don't let anything go to waste. I'll put that little bit here. Now I might put a little bit of every kind of cheese in this one. A little bit of the Gouda, a little bit, this is the Gouda, a little bit of the Parmesan, and then I've got a little bit of basil, I can't even talk anymore. A little bit of mozzarella here, and I'll get another ball out. So this is going to be a 3-cheese pesto, basil, mushroom, delicious little last minute easy peasy supper. These 3 will go in and bake off, get wrapped up, put in the freezer for sometime later. You know, it makes a little bit of a mess, but who cares, right? Life's for living, and you gotta live all the highs. You gotta live all the lows. You gotta clean up a few messes, no matter who you are. So here we go, guys. I'm gonna fold that one over. Oh, this is the big one, evidently, that I've made. Excellent. So I'm just gonna let these mushrooms be garnish for these other guys. They can bake up and around that, right? There's no reason why not. They've all, I think, got mushrooms in them, if I remember correctly. And then I have these 2 little pieces of garlic that were just floating around in that pan. So I'm just going to trim those up a little bit. And I'm going to let that be a little something here to go as a garni on one of my, or maybe some of my little toppings. Why not, right? A little bit of crunchy, soft, sweet garlic pumping out of the top. So I need to vent that. Vent. This is going to need to wash. A little wash. Thank you guys for sticking with me through all the thick and thin. And there we go. So that's a nice dirty pan. I don't have to worry about oiling it or anything. So there goes that. And just kind of tuck that dough back around a little bit if it comes loose. Put my last few bits of mushroom, my last couple bits of garlic, and then I will clean up this terrible mess and get these guys into a pretty warm oven, right? You want to cook pizza at about 425. So I haven't heated up my oven yet because standing in this little small space with the hot oven coming on would not have been as much fun. So thank you all for watching, and we'll show you pictures later on Insta. Thanks so much. Have a great night. You guys all rock.